Hello everyone, this is part 3 of What If Naruto Trained Hinata, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Naruto and Hinata woke up that morning and they were invited to breakfast with the Lord. They around training the Lord's son Kankoni joined them, and amazed by Naruto's morning training he kept asking questions or teasing the clones about what he was doing. After training Naruto the journey as Hinata had already done so. Welcome, welcome, I hope you slept well. The Lord asked as they walked in, bowed down and were shown to their seats. My son speaks highly of your performance this morning. Tell me, do all ninja train as much and as heavily like this? He laughed while he gave his son a wink. No, many train hard, but I am on a special training program to get stronger beyond my original boundaries, Naruto said as he received a cup of tea and smiled. Ano, we got the package that was to be delivered right here, Hinata said. She held out the wooden box as she was carrying it when they came in. Ah, great, I was hoping he'd send someone fast, but I didn't expect it to be here before the next 4 days. The Lord laughed as he took the box from Hinata, who walked over to him. I reckon my friend showed you what is inside, he said. Not awaiting an answer he continued, I hope you weren't attacked tough. He said with concern in his eyes. We weren't attacked, but there was a little hold up yesterday, nothing to worry about, Lord Sama, Naruto said. The Lord inspected the box and after a few moments had a pleased smile. Do you want to stay for tonight's dinner? He asked as he lay down the box beside him. It would please my son as well, Ace said as he looked to a specific wall plate as he nodded to Naruto. Naruto disappeared and suddenly the wall was open like a door. Naruto, Hinata and the Lord laughed as Naruto carried the little boy with an almost red glow on his face to the center of the room. So, you'd like us to stay for a few more hours? Naruto grinned as the boy heavily shook his head. They decided to accept the offer to stay for another day and were to set out the next morning. As they finished the conversation they got time to change into more recreational clothing for lunch with the Lord and his wife and children. Naruto and Hinata got to their room and Hinata walked to her bag as she pulled out a simple but fashionable light purple, white with a flowery blossom pattern, suited to bring some good clothing if they were to eat with the Lord of either one of the villages, as he now thought. Meh, I'd bet it was Sakura's idea to get me close to Hinata. He bought this the day he went out for a new uniform and it was recommended by Kakashi with a blink. Inside the bag was a long black pants and a pair of black slippers, a long-sleeved white jacket with the sleeves getting wider the further they go, a small black shirt to wear under the open white jacket. He changed into his new suit and laid the head protector on the side atop his uniform. As he walked into the room he knocked first, asking if Hinata was ready. She responded and as he entered they were both stunned. Never had Naruto seen someone more beautiful than what he saw before him as Hinata blushed a light rouge. Tsunade was right, if he tries to he can be more handsome than anyone I've ever saw, she thought. Hinata saw Naruto in a suit, never she had seen him elsewhere than in her orange uniform or his new black uniform with his long black leather coat, except at the funeral of the third. Maybe with this and some major improvements in his behavior I could prove Father Naruto was a man worthy of recognition. Hinata smiled at the thought. You look beautiful in that dress, Hinata. Naruto smiled as he walked up to her. She kept blushing and replied, you to Naruto-kun. She took Naruto's arm and together they walked out as she gave him tips how to behave during the lunch and especially what not to do, as this was quite a long list. I'm sure glad I'm just a shinobi, Naruto thought as he heard what you couldn't do when you were royalty, as he pitied the Lord's son. When they entered the room a servant showed their seats and soon after the Lord's family entered with the Lord in front. Ah, so what is said is true, shinobi always blend in into their surroundings. If I didn't know better I'd say you two were a young royal couple here for some diplomatic. The Lord laughed but stopped as he saw their red faces, to laugh even more. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone if they ask. He winked to Naruto as he sat down and regained his serious face as the servants brought in food on dishes and they started to eat. So, tell me, is it really true you can make a copy of yourself, young man? The Lord said after they finished their meal and were drinking tea. Yes, Lord Sama, I am one of the shinobi who master the Kage Bunshin, he said as he stood up. Shall I demonstrate? Single quote dot. Please do so. The Lord smiled, hoping to see what his son told him about. Naruto stood straight up, started to form the seals and said loud enough for the Lord to heal, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. As Kage Bunshins popped next to him, he sat down and began drinking his tea. Anything you'd like them to do, Lord Sama? Naruto smiled as the four stood in a square and bowed down. This gift was of great importance to me, and many people know that. Important enough to make many thieves more than happy to pay the delivery boy who came it here. Also my head of security recommended because of this to send a squad of our finest men, the Lord said as a small group of men in full combat suits walked into the room. Prove to me I made the right choice, he simply put as one man walked up to the four and offered him a few weapons and kunai. Naruto and Hinata smiled to each other as Naruto stood up. I'd be honored, Lord Sama, he said as he took off his jacket, laying him next to him as his Kage Bunshins kept him on. This will help your men focus on the real me as well as keep my clothes clean. Naruto smirked as he and the clones nodded to each other in agreement. Good, good. The Lord laughed as he stood up and walked over to a door. If you'd all follow me, then I'll show you the place where we can start our little match. As he walked out of the room, leaving the rest to follow him, Hinata quickly picked up Naruto's clothes as she followed him with a glowing red face. Seeing his well-built body so close to her in the open light, she saw them at night but never good even with the Byakugan. It took about 10 minutes to walk past several small and big buildings and beautiful gardens until they reached what seemed to be a training area, as the men made a full circle with Naruto in the middle with his four clones around him, all in different battle stances. Alright. Although this is a serious fight, I don't want anyone to get hurt, especially not a new ally, he commanded his man as Naruto began laughing. For their sake, I'll hold back, Lord Sama. As he turned around to face two clones, he nodded and they disappeared. Now it is a little more fair. As soon as your men stopped my two other clones, I will start, as my clones are not even near as powerful as I am. Naruto smiled as he disappeared and reappeared at Hinata, who could match his speed, and you could see her shift a bit to match his way of standing as she was now holding tightly on his arm. Don't go too rough on them, she thought as he whispered. Don't worry, I'll give them a nice show. This is an insult. One of the soldiers shouted, we need to fight this boy. You can't be serious, my lord. Another yelled as he turned around to face his leader. The Lord looked to Naruto, who nodded with a smile as the Lord knew enough and yelled, you have never fought shinobi before, and this can be a good training exercise for all of you. Now forget what I said and kill those clones. He yelled as he stood back because he heard something about shinobi being able to use the elements and even on massive scale to be able to destroy large landscapes. As they re-entered the living room, Naruto talked with the Lord and his son about his abilities and his missions as the Lord told him about his past. Hinata was eagerly listening to Naruto until she was called over by the Lord's wife. You look just like a princess, and unless when you hold Naruto-san you act just like one too. To be more precise, you have the elegance of one, she half-asked, said when she led her towards a smaller room somewhere near. Are you from a royal family? She now asked when they sat down with another girl who was already sitting there as 3 cups with tea were ready. I am Hyuga Hinata, oldest of the Hyuga clan's main branch family. We are the greatest clan in Konoha and also one of the most powerful, so because of that I am not only trained in combat but also in etiquette. She smiled as she saw the surprised look on the Lord's wife and the young girl. I never thought a woman of such importance could join combat. The little girl squeaked as she holds her hand in front of her mouth, shocked that she said something. It's okay, Hinata-san, I'd like you to meet my eldest daughter, Kiara, the wife said as she pointed to the girl who made a small bow nod. She was the eldest and to be the new heir, but our laws forbid such a thing, and she was to be K at birth. When my husband came with an idea, we abandoned her and my younger sister adopted her. She lives in the mansion as a servant but is nothing less than a daughter to me, yet, she cannot live as a princess. Touched by the story, Hinata nodded and said, I am doubted to be the new leader of our clan. Everybody thinks I'm too weak and I need to fight hard every moment to earn respect. I understand how you must feel. As the conversation went on, they continued to boys leading to Naruto and his history. The Lord's wife and her daughter knew everything there is to know about Naruto except the QB. After an hour talking with Hinata, as a servant called to them that Naruto had requested for Hinata. Naruto was playing with the Lord's son when he noticed Hinata was gone. After asking the servants, he found out she was with the lady. Probably talking about girls' stuff, he thought. Later on, the Lord came in and went directly to Naruto. Naruto-san, I have to be at a meeting, and as my son is almost of age to start studying, I need him with all meetings to get him into our system, the Lord said as he nodded to his son, who turned around to face Naruto. Gomen, Naruto-san, he said as he bowed his head a little and followed his father around. Naruto, now having nothing to do, was curious where Hinata was and asked one of the servants for her whereabouts. The servant told him to wait there, and so he waited. Only it was boring to wait, so he pulled out his jacket and shirt, jumped up to the ceiling and started doing sort of push-downs, as you could say. Hinata walked along the garden, seeing some plants she had never seen as she walked into the room, seeing nothing but an empty room except for Naruto's jacket and shirt just a few feet away from her. She walked up to the clothes until she heard a small grin, and before she could look up, Naruto jumped down and landed right in front of her. Less than 1 inch away from her face. Naruto and Hinata both blushed a light pink when they stepped back. Naruto was apologizing for his bluntliness as Hinata kept growing darker and darker red. Mostly from being so close to him, but even more from seeing his chest all in the open again. He quickly put his shirt on and walked over to Hinata. Tell me, Princess Hyuga, how would you like this one special day? Naruto smiled as he kneeled down like a servant. I'd like to begin with a walk. Hinata smirked while getting what he was meaning. Naruto picked up his jacket and walked to Hinata while she grabbed her favorite arm again, and they went outside, and for an hour they just walked through the gardens as the sun was shining brightly. Then they found a willow tree with long branches reaching onto the ground and only a small opening allowing them to see the small pond that lay there peacefully. Also there was a small 2-person bench. They sat down there, Hinata leaning onto Naruto whilst he held her firmly as they just watched each other in the pond. Suddenly Hinata turned around and faced Naruto as he gazed into her eyes, understanding what she was about to do. Suddenly they stopped as they heard 2 young kids giggle. Both blushing heavily, being caught, they quickly stood up as Naruto walked over to the children with an evil smirk on his face. The 2 kids ran off as Naruto chased them through the garden. Hinata sat down on a large rock looking at Naruto. He'll make a fine father for our children, she giggled as she was shocked what her thoughts said to her as she blushed a bit. The day went on as Naruto and Hinata flirted with each other while they played with the children. Evening came as they were summoned by the Lord for dinner. At dinner they talked about their village and what they were going to do as they came back. Naruto explained about their ranks about to be upgraded like never happened before, and the Lord told about his kingdom and his last vacation trip with his children and a few servants. After dinner the Lord moved towards Naruto and whispered to him. I saw you this afternoon, you really love that girl, don't you? He smiled as he saw Naruto become a light red. We got a large bathing area on the other side of the house, one for guests, one for the royal family. You can use ours for a few hours tonight to fresh up and maybe have some fun with your team M, he said as he winked to him and turned around, leaving a glowing bright red Naruto behind. As they walked to their room, Naruto, Ano, what do you want to do tonight, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. I'd love to, Naruto-kun, was all she said while they went inside the room. The next morning they woke up late and quickly packed as they received a small travel pack of food from the Lord's servant with the blessing of the Lord for a good journey. The Lord's son followed them until the end of the village, where a guard brought the boy back to his home after Naruto and Hinata were out of sight. Shall we rush to Konoha, Hinata-chan? Naruto said. Before waiting for an answer he continued, near the village is a small tea house with a bath, mansion, we can stay there for a day or 2 if you want. He smiled as he threw one arm around Hinata and held her closely. I also asked for the Lord not to report our success for the next few days so nobody will miss us, Naruto whispered into Hinata's ear. Hinata nodded in agreement and they both disappeared as they ran as fast as they could towards the tea house. The next day around noon they arrived and rented a room for 2 days as they made ready for lunch. I'll have to think of a way to give this to her, he thought as he held the silver necklace he received from the Lord. Flashback. I reckon you enjoyed yourself yesterday. The Lord said while he met with Naruto on the pond when Naruto was doing his morning spa with some clones. When I first met my wife I gave her a simple silver necklace. She never wore any jewelry, but ever since that day she still wears it even now, the Lord said as sunken into memories. After some time he shook his head as he came back and he turned to Naruto, who walked up to him. Maybe you should try it as well, I'd bet she'd love you for it, he smirked as he pulled a little box from his robe. Try this, he said as he opened the box, revealing a silver chain with a small pendant made of silver, about 1 inch long and round. It was engraved with a flowery pattern but only one small string around it, letting the larger area opened. The pattern was filled with a shining gold, and on the bottom of the pendant was a small point-shaped dark blue, purple gem. I can't accept this, my lord. It must have cost you a fortune. Naruto cried out as he held and looked at the small chain. Take it, I received it from my father with a note. This pendant was to be given to one's true love. The day after I received it, my father died, and now I want you to have it, he said while he closed the small black box which had a single rose engraved into it. End flashback. He put away the small box and checked the small cupboard to see what movies were there, as he selected a nice horror movie which he expected Hinata would be scared of a bit. He smiled as he changed and walked towards. Naruto-kun, where are you going? Hinata asked as she curiously followed him into the small misty cloud until she lost him and turned on her Byakugan again. After a few moments searching, she felt a hand cover her eyes and she turned around. How did it got to such a beautiful week? Because we wake up with the feeling of love. Hinata just smiled as she had never felt so good, especially because Naruto was holding her. Thank you, he said. Looking into her eyes, he gave her a L on the nose as he stood up, holding her firmly. Naruto-kun, it's so cold. What are you doing? She said while trying to escape his grip and getting back into the water. Do you really want to go back in the water? Naruto smirked with an evil grin on his face as he was still rising, until he stood still on the water. He turned her as to holding his hands to her waist as he held her up even higher. Yes, let me back in the water. Hinata yelled out as she. Naruto just smiled and suddenly he said, all right then, and released her, throwing her up. She was thrown high, and as she looked down she saw Naruto sink again in the mist with a small smirk. I'll get you for this. She yelled back as she suddenly realized, she was about 15 feet above the water and was about to fall. She held her towel tightly and prepared for the fall as she landed on the water's surface. I'll get you for that, she muttered as her head returned to the surface. Looking around, she started to swim but couldn't find him. Activating her Byakugan for the third time, she couldn't find him either and gave up. Ah well, he'll surprise me later on, I guess. I'll just relax a bit and get warm again, she thought as she swam to the sitting stones and sat there. Half an hour later she still couldn't see Naruto anywhere, and since it was getting dark now she decided to check the room. She dried up and dressed. When she was near the door, heard some noise in the house and quickly entered the door. Naruto had just thrown Hinata up in the air as he quickly got out of the water. Standing there he saw her shout at the water and almost laughed out loud when she didn't even notice him leave. Quickly he ran to their room as it was just a simple hut. There was a small 2-person couch and a simple but large 2-person bed, a medium-sized television and video set on a cupboard. He searched the cupboard and after that the closet, but couldn't find it. Quickly running to the main house he knocked the door as the manager opened with a friendly face. Anything I can help you with? He asked as he opened the door, seeing it was one of the costumers. Do you have any candles? Naruto asked as he was in a hurry. Let me check, I may have some old ones somewhere, he said as he beckoned Naruto to come inside. After some searching he found a set of 20 small candles and gave it to Naruto. Is this what you were looking for? He asked as he looked at the boy who seemed to almost jump off the roof. Yes, this'll do fine, how much are they? He almost screamed as he ran off yelling, I'll pay tomorrow, got to hurry now, Gumen. And he was off. He ran back into the room and found it luckily empty as he pulled the candles out of the box. He set them up in a small path from the door to the bedroom as the room was divided into 3 smaller parts, a kitchen, dining room, a bedroom and a bathroom. He looked out of the window and saw a real pissed off Hinata walk up to the cabin as he quickly searched for matches. No time for that, just have to use a small fire jutsu. He went to the first one as he formed some seals and whispered. Cold flame no jutsu. The effect was perfect. He blew a bit of air into his hand, forming a small blue fire that was cold to the touch, and he quickly ran past every candle, while instantly beginning a small flame on each one when it touched his cold burning hand. When he lit the last candle he picked his back up, grabbed the small black box and lay it down in the center of the bed, being lightened by the last 3 candles around it. Hinata opened the door furiously, only to be stunned by what she saw. She saw a dark room as it was completely dark by the time she ended up at the room. Except for a path of small candles which were slowly burning with a strange blue flame, obviously something Naruto did. She regained her fury at the thought of the man that just disappeared, abandoning her in the cold air. She followed the path yelling, "If this is a trap, I'll kick you in training tomorrow." As she walked into the bedroom, she was stunned. She saw 3 small candles, around one simple black box with a rose engraved into it. As she was looking at it, her fury calmed down and she saw Naruto laughing in a chair at the side of the bed. "You left me out there in the cold. Why did you, D?" He had walked up to her and lay a finger on her lips. He closed his eyes. "Now open your present," he said as he stepped aside and pointed over to the box. She walked to the box and carefully picked it up. "What's this, Naruto-kun?" she asked, but didn't hear anything from him. She slowly opened the box and looked into it. She just blushed massively as she fully opened it and pulled out the chain. "Is this for me?" she asked as she bent down and held it into the light of the blue fire as she saw the details and smiled even wider. "That is now yours." Naruto smiled as he grabbed her shoulder and took her to a mirror. He grabbed the necklace and held it before her neck, showing it to her in the mirror. He put it on and winked. "To warm you up with my love, whenever I'm not there, or when you're thrown up from a nice hot bath," he whispered the last part. She grinned at his joke as she turned around. "Thank you for the necklace. Where and when did you buy it?" she asked, her eyes literally glowing from happiness. She hugged him and he explained of the morning they left the Lord. After the little story, she was playing with it until she saw him remove the candles from the bed and he sat down. "Now what did you say about getting back at me?" He received a scarier evil grin than he ever saw Ankoda as Hinata slowly walked up to him. Naruto woke up first that morning as he found Hinata in front of him curled up and giving of an almost unnoticeable cat-like purr. Naruto tried to pull away from Hinata to do his morning exercises but got the opposite effect. Hinata woke up, feeling a warm pillow in her arms. She looked around and saw Naruto's pants missing and she saw she drooled on the pillow, leaving a large wet area on it. She quickly got out of bed, washed up and dressed as she ran towards the pool, guessing Naruto would be training. She found him right there and watched him train for a while. After some time he defeated all the clones, fell down on his back on the water and his hand went to the blindfold when suddenly he sank. She quickly activated her Byakugan as she saw that he used all his chakra fighting his clones and staying atop of the water that he was almost suffocating. "Did you use all the chakra in you?" she smirked as she lay him down on the ground, pulling the mattress off from the bed and put it down on the floor of the living room. She placed Naruto on it and laughed even more when she laid her jacket on him, crushing him with another heavy weight as he was completely unable to move this time. "Hinata-chan!" Naruto yelled out as he felt weak as he couldn't do anything and for the first time since years he was in the hands of someone else. "What are you planning to do?" he asked, frightened now that he knew she was going to pay him back and that she trained under the #1 scary Junin in Konoha. "Don't worry, I'm just going to have some fun," she laughed as she sat down next to him. A little reassured, Naruto began to think about what to do now as he came to an idea. "Hinata-chan?" he asked with the cutest voice he could find. "Hi, Naruto-kun," she replied, playing along. "He's up to something, maybe he'll make it even better," she smiled as she awaited his answer. "After that heavy training I'm really exhausted and really hungry, could you make me some breakfast?" He threw up at her as she happily jumped up and went to the kitchen making a simple breakfast. "Here you go, watch out tough, it may be hot," she smiled unseen as she sat down next to him again with a hot plate. "Could you remove the weights so I can eat, Hinata-chan?" "No," she bluntly said as he felt a small moving. Hinata pulled the mattress up to the wall, sat down by his head and moved him up so he leaned against her. She removed some weights at his back so she sat more comfortable as she grabbed the plate. "I'll feed you," she smirked as she picked up the spoon and held some hot soup at his nose when he smelled at it. Naruto smelled a light chicken scent as he felt some air blown past his face at the spoon and after some time Hinata told him to open his mouth and she poured it in. It tasted great and he commented on her, "Maybe almost L has some good side effects," he thought, "except for the sight, that could be better," as he gulped another spoon inside. They ate their breakfast like that and afterwards she laid him down again. "When will you at least remove my blindfold, Hinata-chan?" Naruto said, getting annoyed that he couldn't see. "Not until I'm pleased with it," she said as she went off to the kitchen. "And when is that?" he almost cried out. "Not soon, that's for sure," she laughed, Besides, you'd probably wanted to train after. I'm not letting you yet. Alright, I promise I won't train any more today, now can I at least remove this weights? He tried to get up. Sure, that would make it more comfortable for both of us, she grinned as she lifted her hands, removed some of the weights around his chest. But you're not going anywhere, she laughed as she activated her Byakugan and looked at him carefully. What you're doing, Hinata-chan? Naruto was almost afraid. I told you, I'm not going to let you move. Ah. Found it, she grinned as she pointed out two fingers like in Juken style when she turned off his chakra stream, which was growing already, and she hit some pressure points. What have you done? Naruto asked as he found himself not able to move even an inch as he was already working on moving his hand freely. I simply locked your muscles for the next few hours. She started giggling as she lay down on his other side. Are you able to resist tickling? She said playfully as starting to tickle him lightly. No. Hinata-chan, no, he almost yelled out as he began laughing. Today I will have him completely for myself, she thought as she continued to tickle him. I got more than just some scariness from Anko-sensei, you know, she suddenly began. She trained me some taijutsu moves and ninjutsu as well. She lifted his blindfold on his left eye again to let him see her evil smirk before she placed it back as she fully covered his body. She taught me how to change the shape of my skeleton with my chakra, she laughed evilly. He walked outside with his scroll again. No training, you promised her, he said out loud as he went back inside. They entered the main gate that afternoon, and one of the guards appeared before them. Hey Naruto, Hyuga-sama, Hokage-sama is expecting the both of you today, he smiled as he disappeared again. I guess she's expecting us then. They smiled and walked onto the Hokage building. Naruto was about to waltz through the door as Hinata held him and softly knocked. Come in, I was expecting you too. They heard and walked in. Tsunade pointed to the couch as she sat in a chair in front of it. So, how did it go? She asked, smiling broadly as she saw the two sit down next to each other with both a single blush. The package was delivered without problem, we were not attacked, and on the way there we were only distracted for one day, which proved to make us run for a village, which shortened our journey time by about 2 days, Naruto said in one breath as he leaned back a bit and smiled. Oh well, I know that, I meant, you know, she smiled even more widely as she nodded to them. Finally Hinata understood and began to blush. In NNN Naruto KKK-kun told me he LLL loved me, Hinata almost whispered as Naruto grew a slight pink. Tsunade almost fell off her chair as she couldn't help herself but laughed. Sakura entered the room because of this, and after a couple of minutes they could get Tsunade to stop laughing. I wish I was there, she finally smirked as she lets out a sigh. So the mission was a success, Sakura grinned as she just looked happily at the two. Naruto stood up and walked up to her. I heard you had something to do with some like love, doctor. Naruto made a evil smile as he saw Sakura back off. It's not what it seems, she tried to stutter, but he interrupted. And I also presume you had something to do with our mission. He walked even close and prepared his fists as he grew an even more evil grin on his face. Thanks, he just said. Tsunade fell off of her chair again and. Now that concludes it, we're a couple and no more secret planning, all right? He commanded as he turned to the Hokage. I also think that we're ready tomorrow, Tsunade-bar-chan, he smiled. You think the two of you are ready? Tsunade looked at Hinata. Do you, Hinata? But Hinata immediately nodded. So it was. Naruto and Hinata walked away from her office and took some ramen for dinner. So, back from a mission with your new team, Naruto? Tsuki said as he took their orders. Nope. I just came back from a small holiday with my new girlfriend. Naruto smiled widely as he saw the old man grin. Hinata looked up and began to blush, and Ayami began to laugh. So, he finally found you, did he? Ayami finally said as she handed him their bowls. Yes, on the mission he told me, Hinata muttered and began eating. They told him about their mission, and after that Naruto walked Hinata home. 2 blocks before the mansion, Hinata suddenly stopped and Naruto walked back to her. What's wrong, Hinata-chan? Did you forget something? He asked as she looked to the ground. My father won't allow us to, you know, she began as he grabbed her shoulder. Don't worry too much, Hinata. If your father doesn't approve of us being together, we'll just ignore that. After tomorrow we're Chunin, maybe Junin, and we can do whatever we want. And after a moment she looked up. I wish the mission was longer, now I have to sleep alone. Don't worry, if I'm right, that's all going to change soon, as he offered her his arm and they walked up to the main gate. He said goodbye and when they opened they saw Neji leaning to a nearby wall. I hope the mission was a success, he said as he was still leaning with his eyes closed. It was, and don't worry, I'm just walking Hinata-chan home. You may be a genius but tomorrow she'll be your equal. Neji, Naruto yelled into the air as he walked away, causing Hinata to blush and walk away to her room. The next day at noon they were both standing in the Hokage's office. Sakura asked him to come in and was sitting in the chair and was reading some papers and signing some of them as Tsunade walked in. Sakura stood up and Tsunade sat down. Welcome, as you both know you were to fight each other and show me what you could do over the next day, only that was what we wanted you to believe. She smirked as she saw the two surprised faces. Come in please, she said as 7 shinobi walked in, all the same height and they all wore exactly the same black suit which covered their faces. They all wore the Chunin vest and all had the head protector wrapped around their left arm. Only one thing stood out. They all had a sword on their back, each in a different color. Welcome, your test is the following. Each of these are Junin and won't go soft on you. They all have an inscription on their handle. Your mission is to steal all these swords and deliver them to me before nightfall. You may not use lethal force but, if one of you is beaten you both have failed and will need to do the normal exam. She ended as the 7 kneeled and showed their swords, each had a different kind and length. Furthermore you are not done there, if you have the swords, you must steal them from each other. The one with the most swords will get the Junin rank and the other Chunin, but, each one needs to win at least 3 swords or that person will stay Genin. She finished as the 7 swordsmen disappeared and 2 more people walked in, Shikamaru and the examiner of the first Chunin exam, Morino Ibiki. Oi, Shikamaru, what are you doing here? Naruto asked as Shikamaru walked up to him. Man, you guys are so troublesome, we had to come up with a complete new exam just for the 2 of you, he said as he lazily sat down in Naruto's chair. And we're here to be the judges to see if you are qualified enough to be Chunin or Junin. Ibiki continued. You're lucky, unless the Hokage had pressed the issue we would have denied you, he said as he stood behind the Hokage. That's true, they will judge if you are qualified enough, but I don't worry about that, Tsunade said as she stood up. Ibiki revealed a large box he held on his back and handed it to the Hokage. She placed the box on her desk and opened it. In it were 2 swords, a long katana and a tachi sword. Each of you can pick one of these to defend yourself against the 7 black swordsmen. You can name them by their colors and here are 2 small scrolls to seal the swords in. You just need to make the scroll touch the handle of the sword and it will be sealed, she said as she handed them both a small scroll. You get to nightfall, when the last ray of sun has left my building I shall see the test is over, starting now, and the moment she said that the 2 genin disappeared. Alright, we need to find a way to get them, we'll worry about the swords division when we got them, Naruto said as he and Hinata stood atop of the Hokage building. What sword do you want to wield? He asked as he laid the swords in her hands. She picked the katana and gave him the tachi sword. Can you try to find them with your Byakugan? He asked as he began forming seals. She fired it up and began looking everywhere and Naruto made a dozen bunchins and they threw themselves towards the city's corners. After about 5 minutes Hinata gave a sound and disappeared, Naruto speeding behind her. They found Red. They located him near the forest. He sat on a small rock waiting for them when they arrived. Ah, so you've finally come, he said. Found one. Naruto yelped as he turned to Hinata. He's in the stadium from the Chunin exam. Naruto smiled widely. It's Blue. He laughed as they launched off to the stadium. When they arrived Blue was sitting right in the middle and his sword was stuck in the ground before him. When they landed and drawn their swords he stood up and grabbed his. I see you've met the others by now, quite impressive of such a demon brat. The man laughed. Now I can finally get back at you for taking him away. He yelled as he launched off at Naruto at high speed and that instant he was blown away and a small crater was made within the outer wall. This is for my father you brat. Not a moment too late it was blocked by Hinata. You little bee, even if you are Hyuga I'll get you for that, and protecting this pathetic demon brat. He muttered as he turned around. He stopped when he looked straight into 2 completely white eyes filled with anger. Her left hand was also frightening as it was held just in front of his face, 4 small snakes coming out of it. Don't judge my Naruto-kun. Now only black and white remain, I wonder where they will be, Hinata said after a while and Naruto sat down. Ya no, I've gotten a bit hungry from all this fighting, Want to take a quick break at Ichiraku Ramen? Naruto smiled as he grabbed the back of his head. We'd better search for the last two, Naruto. Hinata began when her stomach growled greatly. Or maybe a very quick break then, she smiled. Naruto and Hinata sat down when Ayami looked at them and was shocked a bit. Naruto, Hinata, why are you carrying all those swords? Question mark single quote. She said as they set them leaning towards the bar as they both smiled widely. It's for our special Chunin exam, we need to collect 2 more and then we're both at least Chunin. Naruto laughed out loud and Hinata silently laughed as well. They ordered their food and explained it to her and Tuki. After they paid they went outside and concentrated on the last 2, searching every spot in the village with shadow clones and the Byakugan. After some searching Hinata found them, one was cleaning his sword and the other sat next to him, meditating. It was at the training area Neji and Tenten always used. Hinata notified Naruto and they went on their way. When they were almost there Naruto stopped her. I got an idea, Hinata-chan, let's try this out, he said as he whispered something in her ear. Should we just go back to the Hokage's office? They won't show up, right? I mean, they couldn't make it trough the fight with Blue, he hated that kid, White said. We must remain at the designated place until we are to be found or the night swallows the day, you know we must at least give them a chance, Black said as he continued meditating. Oh come on, say, they could have defeated the first 5 of us, still they wouldn't be a match for any of the 2 of us alone, especially when we're together. He laughed as he felt done with his sword, now that he cleaned it for the last 4 hours. When they come, I hope they aren't as stupid to just jump in front of us and draw their swords, that would be too simple, don't you think? White said as he let himself fall back into the grass. Knowing Hinata they want, but I don't know about Naruto though, maybe he learned something out of those years of training, Black responded. Oh come on, I know you lost to that demon brat in the Chunin exam, but I mean, look at you, best of the Hyuga clan ever to live, Chunin for a month or 2 now, probably one of the strongest too, not to forget the youngest, alive, and you're doubting if we can handle them. White began to laugh. I can K you before you even realized you were S and yet you doubt me. Black said as he stood up, don't ever underestimate someone, especially this Uzumaki, he said as he formed some seals. I'm going to check how they're doing, he said as he made the last seal and said, Byakugan. He was shocked to see what he then saw. I knew he could make some clones but this is insane. Was screamed trough his mind as he saw the surrounding few miles filled with shadow clones, all just sitting, standing or leaning, faced towards them. I think I am about to prove you're wrong, Black said as White stood up as well. They jumped up past the trees and saw nothing but blackness with small spiked blonde hair under the sun as they fell down again. I thought to give you a small game to enjoy before we fight you. One clone smiled as he was hanging upside down from a tree next to them. This may take a while, White signed as he draws his sword. No, there must be more than this, but before I know for sure we should K a few dozen, Black said as he ran off to the closest group. Within a second 17 clones disappeared and Neji kneeled. I know for sure now, except for one they all just sat there, every now and then one will block us and try to look like the real one, he said as he stood up again. A clone walked towards him. So you found out my first secret, don't be sad, I got a few more and when they're done I'm going to give you something special, he laughed as he suddenly disappeared. Don't go wasting your chakra on these, we just need to find the real one, my Byakugan can easily locate him, Black said as he reactivated it and looked around. He gasped and turned to White again. This is impossible, normally I can see clearly which ones are shadow clones and which ones are not. He almost furiously yelled. Guess it's my turn then, I'm going in, White yelled as he ran up to the closest set of clones and went trough, leaving a smoking trail as he made a large path trough the forest. Eventually he cleared out half of the clones before he sat down at the start, heavily breathing and sweating like hell, in the sun and in that black suit as well. What did I told you? Black sighed as he sat down next to him. If they were to appear now you would be, he said but was interrupted, all the clones that just lay there sleeping, sitting or laughing around him. They ran towards them and Black just barely managed to escape as he saw White just sitting there looking up. Black tried to follow it but it went too fast, a moment later it disappeared out of his sight. When he landed the clones already sat down again, all laughing loudly. Man, you're supposed to be Junin. I may have lost the sword, but there is still one left to defend, he said as he stood straight up. Then we just have to change that now, don't we? A Naruto said, who was sitting on a tree above them. He had the white sword on his back. You. Give me back my sword, you demon brat, or I'll hurt you more than you can imagine. You may not be allowed to use lethal attacks, but we are. He yelled. Stop it, Jay, they're not allowed for a reason, they can actually do it, Black said as he turned towards Naruto. I see many Uzumaki, where is Hinata? Black asked as he looked up. Oh, don't worry, you'll see her soon enough. Now for you, I don't think you will. She doesn't take insults to me lightly, you know. Naruto smiled as Black saw one clone sneak up to White's back. The clone faded and changed into Hinata, who had an evil and filled with hate grin on her face. Never insult my Naruto-kun, let's fight a fair fight now, shall we? Black said as Naruto hopped down and Hinata appeared at his side from the crowd. Fair? Who said anything about fair? Naruto smiled as he looked at Hinata. I've beaten you before, so that wouldn't fair, but then again, if I'd let her fight you it would be just wrong. I mean, just because she can't KO you doesn't mean she has to do the same to you as to the last 6 shinobi. Hinata smirked as she heard that. Don't worry, Naruto-kun, I need my strength for you, I'll do it quickly. She smiled even more evilly as she stepped up. I think you need more than that to defeat me. Black laughed as he put his sword back. We're not supposed to take off this mask, so I'll just go straight with you. I'm Neji. Black laughed even more. I defeated you many times before and I will do so easily again today, he said as he leaned towards a 3. You mean like in the exam last time? Naruto laughed as he walked towards Hinata and whispered something into her ear. She blushed and nodded. What happened on that mission? I never knew she was this strong. Even Lee isn't able to handle all that weight all the time. Neji almost said out loud as he gasped for air from the shock. I'd be scared to s if I were you, Neji. Naruto laughed as he and all his clones forced them to move to a more open area. There they made a large circle. As clones stood atop of each other to see the battle, they made a small arena. Naruto appeared in the middle as he almost couldn't stop his laughing. Alright, now I want to see a clean fight, no death punches nor any strikes at the visitors, right boys? Naruto laughed out as he turned to a wall of clones who heavily cheered him on. You heard it, ladies, don't disappoint them, they expect a good show, Naruto said as he blinked to Hinata. For good luck, he said as he walked back to the crowd. Is this really necessary? Neji sighed. I wouldn't underestimate her if I were you, a few clones yelled as one. Let us begin, Neji-ni-san, Hinata said as she took the Juken battle stance and activated her Byakugan. Neji did so as well, and for a few moments they just glared at each other. Since when do you have a summon jutsu? Neji asked, hoping to get some time. Naruto woke up and quickly jumped out of bed when he realized Hinata wasn't there. He made breakfast and did his morning exercise on the roof. Hinata went for Naruto to pick him up. When she knocked on his door, she didn't get a respond. After some time, she walked around to the back and found his window open. She climbed in and checked his rooms. Hinata waited on his bed as she looked around. She saw the picture of Naruto and his old team. She grabbed it as she saw something written on the lower bottom, friendship. Naruto came back into the room and grabbed his new outfit as he saw Hinata standing up and walking to the door. When did I let you in? He asked as he was beginning to wake up. Hinata went red again as she stuttered. I let myself in, trough the window, she shyly said as she followed him out and they went to the Hokage's office. When they arrived, they met up with Shikamaru as they entered the room. Abiki was already sitting inside and discussing with Tsunade. Ah, there you are, welcome, she said as she stood up. The swords were all hanging on the wall now, in a full circle trough out the room. Please sit down, we have something to discuss, she said as she pointed out to the couch and a chair for Shikamaru. They sat down and Abiki began. Shikamaru, myself and a few others have been watching you two fight the 7 colors. We were surprised to see you handle them almost easily, not to mention defeat most of them when you didn't even put much effort in it. He almost tried to smile but didn't. I especially didn't expect you to beat Neji, although he wasn't to say his name it would point out by his fighting style anyway, Shikamaru continued. The only thing we don't understand is, why did you take her out and brought her here, whilst giving her the 4 swords, Naruto? Abiki said as he looked at Hinata. That's an easy one, sir, he said. In a 1-to-1 fight, I'd probably win from Hinata because she'd hold back. When we were under the genjutsu she almost KO'd me. He smiled as he saw Hinata blush like mad. And she deserves it more than me. He smiled even more as he leaned back. Now there is what we wanted to hear, Tsunade said as she sat down and made a huge grin. Chunin are leaders and need to make decisions that are best for the group, not for themselves. Chunin are needed to master at least 2 elements and should be able to carry out A-rank missions, perhaps even S-rank, alone, she said as she smiled even wider. I know you can easily as you are both experienced enough and strong enough, not to say that you can take out some of our best men without making a strategy. She almost began to glow as she leaned back. Therefore I hereby promote you both to Junin rank. She laughed out as Naruto almost fell off his chair in joy. They sat down again and tried not to blush too much. I've also got some good news for you, Naruto. It's about your family, Tsunade said as she made a very serious face. I think Hinata and Shikamaru already figured it out tough, she said as she received a nod from both of them. Naruto, completely confused by the sudden change of subject and that the two of them know more about him than he did. What do you mean? He asked as they looked at him in a different way than before. It's mostly about your father. Tsunade regained his attention as she turned to Shikamaru. I bet you know Naruto's little secret, hidden in his stomach. She asked. During our first Chunin exam I thought about it and after I saw him fight in another mission I knew for sure about the fox, Shikamaru said. Naruto almost panicked as he turned to Hinata. If she was to hear it now would she hate me for it? Went off his mind as Tsunade continued. After the Kyuubi was defeated the third made a rule, no one was to talk about it or tell anyone with the death penalty. It was because of this that you had to figure it out yourself. As Hokage I broke the rule once when I told it to Hinata, she said coolly as Naruto turned to Hinata again, she looked at him. I wish I knew before Naruto-kun, she whispered. You knew all along and yet you want to be with me? Naruto asked as he almost couldn't feel better. Since the day you left, she whispered back. Tsunade coughed, making the two newly Junin blush as they let go. Like I said, the law was that no one ever was to talk about it. Since that was the old Hokage we should honor him and his rules, but I need to adjust it. From today Naruto and the current Hokage is allowed to speak to anyone about it that they want. Tsunade smiled as she saw Naruto almost explode. Now, Naruto, did you ever think about or ask around who your parents were? She said as she opened one of her drawers. I got that they left me when I was born because I was the demon brat. That's what they told me at the orphanage, Naruto said as he bowed his head down. They didn't leave you, they both s that day, Tsunade said coolly as she gave Naruto no change to ask questions. I was there when you were born, your mother s after she gave you your name, then I picked you up and brought you to your father, after he placed you in a bundle around him. I never saw you until a few years ago, she said as she revealed a scroll from the desk. Half an hour the Kyuubi was sealed into you, your father did so because he knew you were to be strong enough, he knew you could hold him. The only thing he didn't expect was that you were to be hated. I know he never wanted to do this to you, she said calmly as she saw Naruto shocked, frozen in emotion. Why did my father hand me over to the fourth, and was he s by the Kyuubi? Naruto asked when, after a few moments, he finally snapped out of it. Neither one. Your father used a special jutsu, the same one the third used to seal Orochimaru's power to use jutsus, she said as she stood up and walked to the front of her desk. Your father is the fourth Hokage, she said as she threw him a picture. The fourth was holding a tiny bundle with blonde hair and whisker marks. Naruto looked at it for a while and Hinata placed an arm around him as she looked at the photo. You look cute, Naruto-kun, she smiled. Is the fourth really my father? Naruto still couldn't believe it. It made sense tough. Jiraiya trained his father and eventually him. He also taught him the fourth's technique and helped him improve it to make one of his own. The third was protecting you from the day that he replaced your father. He made special rules so that you weren't K, and at some point he even K and sent to K you when you were around 7 weeks, she said as she pulled out the scroll. This is what your father wrote, when he went off to the place where he sealed the Kyuubi. It explains some things and he also told us when he left that we should give you this scroll when you were old enough to understand. She handed him the scroll but held it tightly. Only the council didn't want you to, they still wanted us, and if it wasn't for the third you were. But that's not what this is about. This is about your future. Don't open this until you think you're ready and when you want to know the truth about your family, she said as she let go of the scroll. Naruto accepted the scroll and stared at it for a while. Suddenly he broke the seal that had the third's mark still on it and opened to begin reading. The scroll. I am on my way to the Kyuubi as I write this. I don't have much time, so must be quick. Naruto, my beloved son, shall not hear from the Kyuubi until he is of age. The Uzumaki clan house should be cleaned monthly and kept in good state for, when he is of age, he can live there. I want him to become a shinobi, so he can learn to control his chakra and that of the demon if I am to succeed. My last wish is for my son and for him alone. He can use the special jutsu that the Hokage knows of to reveal this. Tsunade walked up and did a few seals before touching the paper as letters appeared. My son, you should be of age now and at least Chunin or Genin. I hope you have found your way around with the Kyuubi sealed inside of you. You are the only one I could trust it to and the only one I knew that would be powerful enough. If it is kept secret from you I shall explain now. You are Uzumaki Naruto, last heir to the Uzumaki clan. The rest was during the last war and your mother and I were the only ones left. I hope you will find the time in your life to make our clan live up again, as we were the first in Konoha and also one of the strongest. Much more would be said but I see the Kyuubi on the horizon, a horrible beast. I wish I could explain more, yet I can't. Inside the Uzumaki clan house is a library which contains our history and family trees. I will assume the council will erase us from history because of the Kyuubi. Last, I hope you will find someone to love one day to receive the love we couldn't give you. End scroll. Naruto closed the scroll and thought for a while as he sat there. Ibiki left the room after he nodded to the Hokage and he took Shikamaru with him. Want me to show your clan house? Because as Junin, you can be a clan head. Tsunade wore a huge grin as she gave him a little poke. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.